And Robert Ray, former Whitewater independent counsel and former federal prosecutor. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Let's start with the new Andrew McCabe page texts and why they are significant given the fact that he's gone.
Well, it sure looks political, and we've talked about that previously. But now the bombshell part of this piece of news is not only that it looks political, it was political, and more importantly, the Department of Justice was involved, not just the FBI, and people at the Department of Justice in Sally Yates's office, the then Deputy Attorney General, were concerned about this source and had expressed, as you can see from the text messages, concerns about Steele and Steele's bias. Now, all of that, sounds an awful lot like too much information and a lot of bureaucratic infighting, and it's that too. But the important part is that a lot of what that bias really meant didn't find its way into the warrant application. And that's the unforgivable part. That should have been, it's nice that the Department of Justice focused on this and had concerns about it.
Yeah.
And it's okay for the department to have proceeded and gone along and made an application for a warrant. What wasn't okay about it is that they did not disclose all of what they knew about why this person's credibility bias was subject to question.
What are the checks and balances like on the FISA court? I think that's worth knowing now. Like, who's going to be, is there an intermediary? Is there somebody that makes sure that that kind of information about bias or whatever it would be, that there's a conduit between that and the court if already the system is broken enough that it didn't happen in this instance? Well,
that's what you worry about, because the buffer is supposed to be main justice, the Department of Justice lawyers, between the FBI's understandable desire to push. And we want them to push. I mean, frankly, they're the investigators and they're supposed to push. The brake on that and the filter is supposed to be department lawyers before they go to a court and make an application. And if it's a close call, even acknowledging close calls sometimes happen, and you might want to err on the side of more investigation rather than less.
Yeah.
The point is that a court should be adequately informed about the department's own concerns about bias and credibility.
All right. So my last point on this, and we'll move on to the next topic. You talk about this being political. 3 times, though, members of the other side of the political aisle, Republicans, pushed this FISA warrant. It got through. I mean, it kept happening. It kept being extended. Why is that?
I think the president is right to point out, even though people don't give him, much credit for the fact that he has pointed to something that is important for the public to know. He has asked for further investigation in this regard. I do think at some appropriate time it does warrant further consideration by the only other check that's out there, the people's representatives through the Congress.
Oh, interesting. And you say there should be more that we see. And hopefully there will be. I mean, I know it's a secret court, but informing that secret court in a way that the court makes an appropriate decision, I don't know that necessarily has to be
well, and when politics and prosecution mixes, as we've talked about before, mischief usually results. And this is something that, should be seen as of some concern on a bipartisan basis. This is not just, Democrats going after Republicans or Republicans going after Democrats. The country should be concerned about something like this.
All right, real quickly, you've wrapped up investigations before. You took over for Ken Starr. You wrapped up the Clinton investigation. Are we seeing the end of Mueller? And what are you looking at? Not tea leaves, but what you know.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, we're really, I guess, all speculating. Everybody thought it was going to be today. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it is today. Who knows? I think all the outward signs are that this is coming to a conclusion. I think the only thing that I would be watching for is there has been some reporting and some indication that this might be done in 2 strokes, meaning that there'd be notification by the Department of Justice that it actually has received Mueller's report, and then a second stroke would be, okay, the White House and the president's lawyers have reviewed it, and we're now prepared to release something to the public through to the Congress.
And we'll watch for that.
It would be ideal, however, if all that were to happen behind the scenes, and that there's, I think in the public interest, that there's just one announcement when this is all over and the report goes to Congress.
Robert Ray, thank you.
Thanks very much. Have a nice weekend.
We'll bring you back.